Thank you for being here. We are glad to see so many people here. Thanks for coming. It is the 15th of September, 2022, on a Thursday evening. We're at the Legacy Campus in the boardroom, and we will begin with a roll call, starting with Larry.
Larry Jepson, board member.
Randall Bagley, board member.
Roger Pulsford, board member.
Terry Rhodes, board member.
Kathy Christiansen, board member.
Jeff Nielsen, board member.
Jared Black, business administrator.
And Steve Norton, superintendent, and Chris Corcoran, board member, are excused this evening. We will begin with a pledge and mission statement led by Randall Bagley. Please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our mission is to educate students for success in a changing world.
Thanks, Randall. First up on our agenda after that is recognition, which we're super excited about, of the District Teacher of the Year, Dave Christofferson, and that will be presented by Doug Snow.
Well, I'm also very excited to be here with Dave and everybody. So I want to just share some thoughts that we have about Dave and give you some background. So Dave, in him sharing with his family and friends, didn't think he would ever find himself as a teacher. He started off in the construction industry for a lot of years and kind of toyed with the idea on and off of going back to college, and decided that the construction, that's not what he wanted to do, and didn't really want to go back to school. And finally his wife told him, find something you're passionate about and do that. And so that's how he landed in art and ceramics. And I'm telling you, you'll be hard pressed to find someone that's more passionate about what they do than Dave. And I will add, I would say the same about his wife in the field of mathematics. Very passionate. They're both passionate about what they do. So he gave it another try, picked up his bachelor degree from USU in 2014. Then he went to work at Box Elder District and realized that this really was his passion. And then an opening occurred and moved over to Ridgeline, and also then in 2017 received his master's degree in ceramics. And we have seen an explosion at Ridgeline in the number of students taking ceramics, but also an explosion in the number of students excelling at ceramics. So, for example, the National Ceramics Foundation takes 100 pieces for award winners in the entire country, 100. This year, 8 of those pieces of all the high schools in America came from Ridgeline High School. I mean, that's just incredible. On top of that, during a show, his students earned over $200,000 in scholarship offers, just the ceramic students from Ridgeline High School. He's helped them develop their talents and opportunities to pursue their passion. We brought in a visiting artist, and these kids, some of them have also made their own raku kilns. And so these kids, in fact, I had a parent call me and say that their kid had been struggling last year, and this turned him around. He made his own kiln. All his buddies come over, and now they fire kilns and make pottery, and it's just amazing. He instills a lot of pride in his students and passion for ceramics, and it just makes them better students. Now, on top of all that, Dave is really about building relationships with his kids and with the staff, and those kids love him. They do. And our program has exploded so much that Dave's teaching on his prep. We had to get another teacher to teach on her prep to fill. We have, I want to say it's 18 sections of ceramics at Ridgeline. It's just packed. And kids want to keep taking it over and over, and they just love it. And I'll tell you, it's just been a privilege for me to work with Dave, and I sure applaud his efforts. So, Dave Christofferson, Teacher of the Year.
Can you give him the microphone?
Oh. First, tell us what you did to your hand.
My hand was not a ceramics injury. It was a mountain bike injury. I did tell my students, though, I said, hey, if you don't have a ceramics teacher that comes in with a mountain bike injury every once in a while, you might be missing out on some of the ceramics part. I don't know. It seems pretty normal to me.
Anything you want to say about receiving the award?
Well, first off, I'm extremely honored. I don't feel like it is just my doing to have our students at Ridgeline be in the position they're in. It's definitely a culture that we have there that's very, very encouraged and built upon by all of the staff members. I couldn't succeed the way I succeed without the support of my administration, not in the least. Deke and Andy and Doug are amazing in their support and their caring, not only for the students and my program and being able to build that, but just for me as a person. And I feel that caring and compassion from them on the daily basis. And then even my predecessor administrators, I always have had support. Brittany Foster was amazing at supporting me. Bob Hinkie went out on a limb to steal me away from Box Elder and had a very, very uncomfortable phone call with my former administrator over there, who apparently we heard is still slightly begrudged over it, but it really is an honor. I feel like really most of the credit really should go to my students because they work. I feel like I give them a spark and then they just keep the fire going. We teach so many students at Ridgeline, I wouldn't be able to do it at the levels that I do it now without having my students be involved in the teaching process. I have advanced students who go up and down the lines helping other students in class. They see someone struggling or they see me struggling and they immediately step in and they want to help, which is amazing just to see them grow like that as humans, but then to also me get the back end benefits of them being so involved with it. I think we all know your learning of something becomes so much more deep when you turn around and start teaching that to others. So I feel like I'm kind of just a cog in my own machine at this point. But I'm very privileged, so thank you.
Wait, stay here for a picture.
A little lower, Doug, I'm short. Come over on this side. Come up by me. Oh wait, there we go.
We shouldn't let you out of here without mentioning the car from Murdoch. What did you pick?
Posing for the smile. I'm pretty sure they're moving for me.
Oh, I thought they did.
Thanks, everybody. Amazing. I'm flattered.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Christofferson, for all you do. And we must mention that Murdoch Auto also is giving Mr. Christofferson use of one of their vehicles, free use of one of their vehicles for a year. And they do this every year for our District Teacher of the Year. We appreciate their support and generosity. Next up, we have public input, and we have one person signed up to address the board, and that would be Pamela Budge. And so, if you'll come up to the microphone so that you can speak and be recorded. I will remind you that comments are limited to 3 minutes. Personnel comments are prohibited, and comments are recorded as part of the public record, so please be respectful, which I would expect after reading your email. And so, Jared, do you have a timer? Okay. So, take the floor.
All right. My name is Pamela Budge. I'm a parent in Cache County School District. And like you said, I emailed you just briefly on the draft policy for constitutional freedoms, just my support of it. I just became aware of it last night and read through it. What I really appreciate about it is that it's centered around state law. I appreciate that it upholds religious freedom and right to conscience. I appreciate that it also upholds a parent's right to decide whether children participate in school. And it sets very clear boundaries of what's appropriate in the classroom and what isn't. Really appreciate all of that. And I wanted to kind of explain my reasons behind that. I don't want our schools to become places of activism and advocacy for political and social issues of the day. I'm very politically active myself, but I keep my children mostly out of that. I don't feel like it's their time for that. I think right now it's their time to learn principles, to gain a foundational knowledge of how our government works, so eventually that they can be involved if they would like to be. And I know that there are some controversial political and social issues that many view as human rights issues, and they believe that they should be in the classroom. And I just wanted to kind of give my perspective on why I disagree with that. One issue that I feel very strongly about is the pro-life issue. I'm probably as pro-life as you can be. I view that very strongly as a human rights issue. I believe that unborn babies have human rights. That being said, I don't feel like it's the place of teachers to necessarily take that position and maybe put posters and banners and whatever may be in support of that, either the pro-choice or the pro-life side. And so that's kind of where I'm coming from with that. I feel like this policy does a really good job of outlining what is appropriate and what isn't and why. And it's all based on state law, like I said. And I feel like that's why I can put my full support behind it. And I hope that you can consider that and approve it.
Thank you, Pamela. Thank you for coming. We appreciate your input. Okay, next up we have, first I should ask you, Pamela, would you like anyone from the district to follow up with you on your comments?
That should be fine. I might need to leave early, so...
Okay. Next up, we have our consent agenda, and I will take a motion for that.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda as printed, and we will vote electronically.
Voting is closed, and the motion to pass the consent agenda passes unanimously.
Thank you, Jared. Moving on, we have our reports agenda, and we will have that draft policy review that was mentioned by Mrs. Budge in her comments, and Alden Jack will present that policy.
Good evening. I'm Alden Jack. I'm the Director of Educational Equity for the Cache County School District. And we do have a draft policy to propose today to the board. This policy is a revision, or maybe it's better to call it an expansion, of two currently existing policies titled Religious Neutrality and Controversial Classroom Discussions. So those two policies are incorporated into this draft that's given to you today. But there are also other things that have been added. Primarily, this draft is the result of many hours of study of the Utah statutes and the Utah State Board of Education administrative rules, and also, as much as possible, current case law that are related to the things contained in the policy, especially First Amendment rights in the public schools and expressions by teachers and students. So that is referenced in the introduction of the draft policy. The statutes that were a primary source for the policy. There are three, I call them sister statutes because they're so related in the way that they address some of these things for schools. The first is maintaining constitutional freedom in the public schools. The second is the statute expressions of belief, discretionary time. And the third is waivers of participation. I include a fourth, like a cousin, to those three sisters, and that is civic and character education statute. And together, those statutes seek to clarify within the appropriate state and federal constitutional constraints choices that are available to parents, students, employees, and educators related to religion, speech, and freedom of conscience in the public schools. So that's all given in the introduction there. The second section addresses civic and character education. Again, this is largely from the statute on the same matter. And I think it's just important to remember that the schools are a reflection of the communities of which we're a part, and that is part of why they exist. And in the statute there, it suggests things that are part of a school community to learn about honesty, integrity, morality, civility, and there's a list there: respect for parents, home and family, and things related to helping our children become responsible citizens for that same community of which the school is a part. And so that is listed there as something that I think is important in the context of the whole. The next section, Section 3, comments on curricular displays and instructional spaces. It is a challenging time for schools because there is a lot of dialogue in the country and in the state around issues, and they are seen with a variety of opinions. And that's a challenge for a school to navigate. And we know that it's very important for us that we maintain a three-part mission: to care for those we teach, to maintain safety of those students who are within our care, and to ensure that all students are learning. This Section 3 on curricular displays and instructional spaces seeks to clarify some things that are unique to an educator's position of influence in the education setting. We have minors who are required to attend school, and the public school officials and educators who work in that setting have to be very careful to not use that position of influence to inappropriately advocate for or endorse or promote or disparage certain religious, political, or social viewpoints that are personal to the educator. And but at the same time, these are also things that are part of a school. And so Section 3 also comments on situations where there are topics that are addressed in schools, and they are related to religious, political, or social viewpoints at times. But there are some parameters around that. One thing to note is that there is a very real difference between instructional space, where we put references to instruction and curriculum, and a difference between a personal teacher's space. So, for example, an instructional space would be considered the classroom door, the walls. That's a place to support instruction. It's generally not a place for public comment or opinion. And there may be times where a teacher has a personal space, such as the desk, with their immediate effects. That could be largely considered a personal space. And we are suggesting here that personal items displayed in those areas can be done tactfully in a way that does not promote or endorse certain viewpoints, but also does not influence instruction. And there's a very real difference in doing that in a space such as the personal desk space of a teacher versus the instructional space of a classroom. Section 4 addresses student expressions of belief during discretionary time, and it largely follows the statute on the same matter, simply that we usually do not regulate a student's expressions unless it becomes a substantial disruption to the school process, and there's some requirements there that an administrator would need to review case by case to determine when it may be appropriate to respond or reduce or restrict a student's personal expressions. And it gives those parameters there based on the state statute there. The next section, Section 5, is titled Study of Controversial Topics. And this addresses the fact that schools may have, as part of the approved standards for the state or curriculum, there may be certain topics of discussion that invite and have opposing views that exist on those matters. But it may still be a part of the improved instruction. And it comments on a parent's ability later in Section 6 to waive or request a waiver of participation on a portion of curriculum if needed. The other items in Section 5 on the study of controversial topics, it reviews suggestions for schools to maintain good transparency about what is taught in schools, especially if there's an understanding that it may be considered controversial part of the curriculum. So some of those kinds of things include engaging in transparency about the topic and providing information to parents as requested. Other things include ensuring that the content we teach is age appropriate and that it's been vetted for use by students of the appropriate age. And that as we present those materials, that educators remain unbiased in the way the material is presented. And the second piece of that section clarifies requirements by state law about when we do solicit information from students in the form of a survey and topics that require parent consent before we do so. Again, the last section comments on waivers of participation and gives the parameters there for how a parent might work with a school administrator to determine how to waive a certain portion of curriculum as needed, and that waiver is available to parents. So this is submitted today for consideration, and again, I appreciate the individuals in our Educational Equity Committee who have helped to review this and done our best at aligning this with current state statute and administrative rule and the case law that we see around us that gives some guidance on how to handle this in some of these matters. I also believe that it's important to view this policy as one piece of a whole, which includes many action steps that our school district is currently taking to address educational equity and to look at how we can maintain a focus on teaching and learning in a safe and caring environment, and how we can help to train educators to do so. So I wonder if you have any questions for me at this time.
I don't have any questions, but just want to say thanks. I don't know how many thousands of hours you have put into this, but it's got to be over at least 1,000 that you have dedicated in researching and trying to make this the best policy for our district that will keep our students safe, will keep them learning, and can still handle different subjects that may come up in curriculum that are a little controversial. So I like the policy. I think it's great.
And I appreciate that you have considered existing policies and included them in this so that we can so that our net is that we're actually removing policies.
Yeah.
That's a good point. So the proposal here is this draft for submission, but also would mean the retirement of the other two. Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thanks so much, Alden.
Thank you.
Moving on, we are to board member reports. Anyone?
I have a couple of questions for everybody.
Okay.
And I can't remember if I asked this or not, but does the board want to do thank you emails again this year like we've done the last 2 years?
Absolutely.
Are you on board to do it?
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
So I'll just stick with the same schedule and get it to you. All right. And then when it's your turn, you just turn it into agenda. And then the other question that
Agenda or to Emily?
to agenda.
Okay.
So,
To make sure we
To
don't
wordsmith
write
them a little
anything.
better. And
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, that'll be good. So we turned it into agenda.
All right.
And then she'll edit and get back with us and then send it out. And then the other thing, it's been a few years since we've asked if any of the principals in our district would like to have one of their school performance groups come and do a board meeting. That was because of COVID. And honestly, we didn't get a lot of takers for that because they have plenty of things to do. But we did, starting in January, usually get 4 different schools that wanted to bring like a children's choir or their opera or something like that. Would you like me to pursue this and see if they would like to do it, or do you think it's an old idea and you're not interested anymore?
No, if you'd be willing to do it, I think it's great. I really enjoy it, and it's fun to see the different kids perform. So, yeah, if you're up to it, that'd be wonderful.
Everybody okay?
Yeah.
With that? And we'll just let them decide if they want to or not, but we'll provide the opportunity.
And we do need one for the USBA, right, in January?
Oh,
We have one
yeah.
group that's
We
going to do
do.
that.
We need a group to do the entertainment at one of the sessions at USBA annual conference in January.
So who's in charge of getting that? Did we assign someone on the board?
We did not. Steve was working on that, but since he's not here, we can't ask him.
So, I mean, we're not in a rush yet. Or should we just maybe ask about it at a principal's meeting?
Probably.
Do you want me just to ask about that?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, that's all I have.
Jeff, any UHSAA meetings recently?
there's a lot coming up.
Okay, but nothing recently?
I had one recently, but nothing
All right.
of note.
Anything we need to know about?
There's a lot of posturing going on with the realignment. So,
I'm sure.
yeah, that's putting it lightly. But
Okay. Thanks for being so diplomatic
Yeah.
describing that. Anyone else? All right. Board president report is that I wanted to tell you how much I have enjoyed and appreciate the opportunity to sit in on the Educational Equity Committee meetings, and that's Alden's committee. Those people are so conscientious and concerned about doing things right in our district by our kids and our employees, and I really appreciate what they're doing with that committee. Thank you. Hopefully you all saw an email from USBA on the Power Up, with the Power Up video from Robin McClellan from Uinta School District, and the challenge for this month, and are working on that. And the last thing I wanted to mention was I was at the Cash Education Foundation board meeting last week, and their Christmas Tree Jubilee is coming up on November 21st, which is a Monday. Did you go to that last year? Mm-hmm. Okay. Is there someone on the board who would like to attend? You can take your partner with you, so that you can visit and see what they do and see how that whole thing goes. Anyone interested in going?
There's also a dinner.
Usually the district has a couple of tables at that. Dinner and Jubilee, dinner and auction, and it would be great to have some board representation there. I've been there. Kathy's been there. Anybody else? Jeff, would you like to go?
Sure.
Okay.
It's fun.
November 21st.
Okay.
I think it's at 6, but I can't. I'll get back.
I'll
with
find
you.
out.
Okay.
You don't have to. I'll search it out.
The money that is all funds raised at the Christmas Tree Jubilee is for the Models for Excellence program, and 100% of it goes to technology funds. And this was a thing that I learned at last week's meeting, that usually Tim and Clayton White are looking at the latest, greatest technology equipment, ideas, whatever that might be useful to our district. And so the money that's raised at the Christmas Tree Jubilee allows them to take a small amount of funds and do a pilot project with new technology and see if it's useful or not useful. Or Tim, correct me if I'm saying anything wrong here.
Well, I'll give you a couple of examples. Chromebooks were one of those that we experimented with. We're now, we've got 16,000 Chromebooks in the district, so very successful. Projectors with some other short throw projectors. I think we have probably 700 and something of those deployed in classrooms, just because the money just allowed us to try out some things. We're always trying out things to prove the concept before we invest further as a district. That's been very helpful.
Another example that Terry Lewis gave me was the transition from smart boards to big screen TVs, with that a teacher can control with an iPad and a stylus, so they can move around the room as they are writing on the TV or the board. So as all of you who have been teachers know, that's very helpful to move around the room, not to be stuck in the front at a smart board. So lots of great ideas that this Christmas Jubilee money funds for our district to try out new things. So so Jeff, we'll plan on you attending.
Thank you.
And the superintendent is not here, so we won't hear a report from him.
You wanted me to remind you to tell them about the information under library on board docs. This was when we were at Cash, so everybody knows.
Oh, yes. Thanks for reminding me. Also, Emily has done a fantastic job of updating our library on board docs. There's a lot more information in there than has been in there in the past for board members. So, like if you went to miscellaneous information in there, there's a list of the principals' meetings, dates and times for the year, the school calendar, the district office staff, acronyms from USBA, the crisis communication plan. Anyway, I'll let you look at it. But Emily has added a lot of information there and has updated everything very well. So I appreciate all the work that she has done to keep us up to speed in our board docs library, so we don't have to. Kathy likes carrying her papers around. I'm not as organized as her, so I need it to be someplace here. So anyway, I appreciate Emily doing that and wanted to let you know that everything there is updated and there's a lot of good information there. If you need something, you could check there.
So do you want to mention also about if someone sends an email and they don't have children in our district, we do not.
Let's wait to that one.
Okay.
Anybody else have a comment, concern? All right. Seeing that we are at the end of our agenda, we will adjourn. Thank you all for coming.